Success, whether it's professional or personal or even organizational, can seem elusive, especially during uncertain times. Well, the person I have with me today will be talking about how you can actually plan for your success on any level. Welcome to 100 Days of Service Now. I'm Kylie Alexander, technical trainer at GlideFast Consulting. And today I have a guest that's going to blow your wig off. Yes, your wig off. He is the Associate Vice President at GlideFast Consulting. He's someone that I'm so proud to know and to work with. I want to welcome to the stream Jacob Benker. Welcome to the stream, Jacob.
All right. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Good to have you here. Good to have you here. Listen, I don't throw up the air horns for just anybody. So this is really special to have you here in the stream. I appreciate your time, and I'm so looking forward to having a great conversation with you.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it as well. I'm really excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Every time we speak, you blow my wig off. So I was like, yo, we have to be able to have these conversations so other folks in the community can benefit from them. So this is going to be a good one. Tell me this. Whenever we talk, you have the concept of going wide and going deep. And you talk about this both in your professional development and also in terms of how organizations can expand their business. Can you share a little bit about that, what you mean by going wide and deep?
Yeah, so from a professional standpoint, I talk about it, being on the technical side, being a senior architect before getting to this level of associate vice president. From a technical standpoint, especially with something like ServiceNow, right? There's such a huge platform and there's so much that you can know. You really do need to stretch yourself wide across the platform, but you also got to find those areas where you do need to dig deep and you really need to understand certain areas. And then when it comes to business, it's the same way. You've got to know things across the business, but there are areas that you just need to really dig deeper and really understand at a much deeper level than just at a service level. And it also just kind of shows the commitment to what you're doing, right? That you're committed to going deeper and you're not just trying to stay at that surface level.
Yeah. And I think when I think about when you say, business is going wide and deep, and I think about, the customer, the end user there, they want to know that the company that they're entrusting their time, their dollars or what have you with, they're investing something into that organization. They want to know that that organization is really vested in what they do, that this is not just at a surface level. There are a lot of people who are coming into the ecosystem right now, and I want to learn a little bit more about how you got here. How did you get to ServiceNow, and tell us a little bit about your IT journey?
IT journey. It's over a 20-year journey, 25-year journey. Started off in the mid 90s doing tech support, calling into Dell and Gateway, those types of
Hmm.
things. And then worked my way into a help desk. And then from there, I really got into web development and found out that I kind of had a knack for coding. I didn't know that I didn't have classes like they do nowadays in high school. So I didn't know anything about coding until I got the opportunity to go to a web boot camp and learn HTML. And then from there, it just kind of took off. I just kept basically absorbing everything I could, anything I could, get my hands on from a learning perspective. Just kept going after it, which got me into Remedy, and I did Remedy for a long time. So I've been in this ecosystem for a while, but in then 2013 is when I switched over to ServiceNow. The company I was working with decided to make the switch, so I was part of that team that architected and implemented ServiceNow there.
When you, in 2013, you said, right?
Mm-hmm.
What iteration of ServiceNow, and what where were we? Geneva? Like what?
Oh, no.
What?
Before that, we started off on Calgary, and then when we went live, I think we just upgraded to Dublin.
Okay, so Calgary, Dublin. So we're talking about some of the early days of ServiceNow. How were you using ServiceNow then? Oftentimes people think of ServiceNow, especially in the early days, as a ticketing system. Tell me about some of those early experiences with the platform.
So yeah, for the people who don't know me, a lot of my background has really been in ITOM and ITAM. So when we were looking at ServiceNow, it was when their very first iteration of IT asset management had just come out, and obviously the platform has changed a lot over the years.
Hmm.
Back then, that's all you had was ticketing, and then you had asset management, but at a very introductory level, right? It was their very first release of asset management. Yeah, we started off under the idea that we were going to start with asset management, and that was going to be our plan. And it really is, I would say, for a lot of companies, a really good place to start with the CMDB and asset management. But unfortunately, for the times, it was just too new. So we ended up switching and starting with ITSM and really focused on implementing ITSM and redoing the processes. The company I worked at was a large global company. So we actually ended up having to rework the process and the tool to support the entire global organization. It was a pretty big undertaking, but it was a lot of fun too.
I'm glad that you mentioned this because, again, when you think of those early days of ServiceNow, people come in thinking of it as a ticketing system. Yours is a
Mhm.
bit unique because you came in right away saying, hey, we want to do something where it comes to our asset management. And then you kind of fast forward some years later here at GlideFast Consulting, where you kind of have a pod that includes the ITAM team.
Mhm.
I want to know a little bit more about your journey and a little bit more about your background in the role that you're currently in as Associate VP at GlideFast, and you have these various pods. What are we talking about when we say pods? Tell me about what those pods do, who they are. Tell me some of the work that they're doing.
So basically, we're broken up by different product areas. So for me, my pod, I have ITOM, ITAM, IRM, and SecOps. And then there are pods for different areas: HR, CSM, SPM, ITSM, things like that. So really, part of our job is to kind of focus on being SMEs in that area, right? We might still work ITSM, we might still work other areas, but really, this is going that wide and deep, right? Here we go deep, deep into ITAM, deep into ITOM, IRM, or SecOps, right? We want to have the best in the industry working here, and again, digging deep into how we implement those and how we can support our customers with whatever they're trying to do within those particular areas of the platform.
Sure. You talk about the subject matter experts and the HAM team, the asset management team, rather, EAM, software, hardware, asset management. They recently are just coming off of a huge webinar that they did, kind of going into some of the nuts and bolts of what it looks like to have a asset management implementation. Talk to me about what is unique about that team. I had an opportunity to speak with each of them, from Sandeep, Chris, Lawrence, and I was really blown away, not just by their skill set, but there was something that was almost like that X factor. Can you talk to me a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, one, they are brilliant. They are fantastic people, and they're great to work with. But a lot of it comes to that care that we really care about ServiceNow, and we care about our customers, right? GlideFast, we don't do anything but ServiceNow. So we're attached at the hip with everything ServiceNow. We need it to be successful. We care about doing it right and making it successful. But part of it also is that we really do care about the customer. Most of us, like myself, and I know if people's ever seen Lombardo's story, started GlideFast, he came from the customer side. So we've been there. We've been in your shoes. We've been in that situation where you're trying to implement something that is going to make the company better, but you're fighting finance, you're fighting SecOps, you're fighting those battles. We've been in those battles, right? We've been there, and we're ready to come alongside you and help that now. So that's really a big part of it. They really just care about doing it and doing it well.
Yeah, and when you are working with a group of folks like that, you're able to there's that with that synergy where you're able
Yeah.
to rely on each other, and so like the entire the whole is equal more than just the individual parts. And I just think that's such a unique characteristic at GlideFast, and it's kind of really a unique experience to be a part of that.
Yeah, especially those three that you saw on that
Yeah.
webinar. If y'all didn't see it, I would highly recommend going and catching it. It's recorded. But I mean, I was there from the beginning when they started talking about it, and just how quickly they each jumped in and took their parts and kind of really worked together to again try to deliver something that was top notch. That was just something worth watching, and they did a great job.
Yeah, they sure did. When an organization is looking for an asset management solution, what are some of the pain points that they're experiencing? I mean, maybe they've gone through maybe they've reached the extent of their Excel spreadsheet and email system, but what are some of the other pain points that those organizations are facing when they're looking for a solution?
Well, there's quite a bit. depending on whether you're talking about hardware asset management and software asset management, each one kind of comes with its own set of challenges, but some of them are a little bit unique. Obviously, cost is always a challenge and always a factor. Buy-in and adoption is always going to be something to overcome that they have to deal with. But a lot of it does come to also kind of the fear of the unknown, right? The changes that you're going to have to change your processes. And if you have been somebody that's been doing spreadsheets for a long time, or to get that real trust in the data is a really big thing. We have to work very closely with clients to help them get their data into the system, get their data where they can trust the data in the system and that they can really rely on it and make sure, especially when it comes to software asset management, to try to get all your licenses, all your entitlements, pair that to what's being discovered by Discovery or SCCM and see, what's actually installed out there. If you can do it and do it well, it's amazing. And they absolutely love it. And the ROI is there. But it's getting all the data right that is one of the biggest hurdles when it comes to IT asset management.
You talk about the fear of the unknown. And I'm going to switch gears just a little bit. And we're going to kind of go back and forth because we're talking about both organizational success as well as personal and professional success. When you talk about fear of the unknown, it makes me think about risk and failure and their role in success. You've talked a lot about this in our conversations. Can you share a little bit more for our audience here today?
Yeah, so I tell people all the time. I have a couple different things when it comes to this about leadership. One, you should never ask for permission to lead. If there's places you can take initiative, you can step up and lead, do it. But to do that, you can't be afraid to fail. You have to be willing to take that risk and understand that the first time you might fail, right? Even the second time you might fail. It's about what you're learning and how you're growing through that process that really makes the difference, right? So yeah, there is that fear of the unknown or jumping into, maybe, I don't know if we can talk about it a little bit here. We have GlideFast Consulting University. I'm so proud of that program.
Yes.
And we have people who have literally had to make the leap from outside of IT into IT, hoping that they were going to make it through that program, and they have, and they've done a fantastic job. We have some wonderful people that have gone through that program. But I think about them when I think about that they had to take that leap with the idea that this could fail, but they jumped in with both feet and they've worked hard and turned it into a success. So
Yeah.
to really succeed in life, you have to be willing to fail.
I'm glad that you brought this up, and I didn't think that we were going to go here, but since we're here, we'll talk about it. Uh, I always say this, and I'm going to say it again. It was October of 2022 where ServiceNow CEO Bill McDermott made the ambitious announcement of skilling up 1 million people on the platform of ServiceNow by the end of 2024. With Rise Up, and we also are familiar with the Next Gen program, there is a very unique program that GlideFast has created and has been implementing for some years now in GlideFast Consulting University, or GCU. Talk to me a little bit more about it. You talked about it here, about the risks that those folks are taking. Tell us what GCU is all about if you can.
Well, it's just about that. It's about skilling people up. And there's people that we've taken who've maybe gone through a JavaScripting boot camp, so they had some background in it. But then we also have had people who come from completely different backgrounds that really just wanted to change their career, change their lives, and get into an industry that has, you know, so much growth potential. ServiceNow, it's everywhere. It's continuing to grow. It's not going anywhere that we can see anytime soon. Bill McDermott done a great job leading ServiceNow and what he's doing there. So it's a great opportunity for people to really get into a field that maybe they didn't really have a background in. And then we train them how to do it our way, how to do it the GlideFast way. So they go through a lot of technical training, they get certifications, but they also go through mock implementations again. So it's not all theory, right? They actually get hands on. And again, it's about learning how to do it the way we would want them to do it. Because that's where we have people who weren't on the customer side, right? They didn't know that, they didn't experience that necessarily. So, but we still want to instill that in them to help them understand that it's not about implementing the story, right, or even implementing the solution. It's about driving value for your customer.
When organizations have a GlideFast ServiceNow implementation, there is a score, a customer satisfaction score.
Mhm.
How is GlideFast assessed? What do we learn from those customer satisfaction uh, surveys?
Well, those are one of our biggest indicators of our success, right? It's not about necessarily the number of projects; it's about the number of fives that we get on our CSAT scores. If you've ever been to any of our events, we brag about that a lot because it means a lot to us. It means that we are driving value for our clients, and that's what we're learning is where we're doing a good job driving value and where we can improve. It's another part of success is you've always got to be looking for ways to improve. You got to know where your shortcomings are, know what you want to improve on, and then of course set a pathway for how you're going to improve. And for us, that's what those CSATs are all about. We go through those surveys, we go through closures, project closures with the clients, and get lessons learned. And we're always looking for ways to improve ourselves. And one of our big words around here this year is best in class, or our big phrases, right? We're really trying to focus on making sure that we're not just the best in the ecosystem, which we feel we are, but there's other really strong competitors out there. But we want to be beyond that. We want to really be best in class. We want customers to look at us as a best in class services organization.
Let me ask you this. Here we go. We're going to to the other side of this now. You talk about best in class organizationally. When you are breaking into, say, you did not have this 25 years of experience in IT and all the years of experience since 2013 with ServiceNow. If you were breaking into the ecosystem right now, March 2023, what would you do to skill up to distinguish yourself so that you could soon be, or in due time, become best in class?
We're going to go back to the deep and wide here.
Yep.
So the platform is so big now, right? There's so many different applications, so many different areas of the platform that you can really become an expert in. But I would really encourage people to really dig deep on the platform first and foremost. Really know the platform, because whether you're doing CSM, HR, or SPM or ITAM or IRM, the underlying platform is always the same, right? It really doesn't change. Business rules, client script includes the best practices behind all that stuff stays the same. Really know the platform. And then for me, I really tell people to focus on the CMDB and specifically the CSDM. Know the CSDM because, again, no matter which area you're doing, CSDM is all about putting the right data in the right places to make you successful now and as you do future implementations down the road, right? So if you're focused on the CSDM, you know where to put the data in the right places throughout the CMDB. And as of the most recent release of CSDM, it's really now across the platform, not just the CMDB.
I appreciate you saying that. I'm looking into my now learning and have myself on a track, a schedule of like, okay, I'm going to do this course next, doing this course now. I'm now doing. By the way, folks, if you've not taken scripting and ServiceNow fundamentals from Now Learning, you must take this class. This is a way to not be afraid of scripting. The class is phenomenal. Neither here nor there. Where you were talking about the CSDM and CMDB, I kind of had a little smirk on my face. I don't know if it was showing, but I was talking to my sister the other day, and she's a platform owner, ServiceNow platform owner at her location. And she told me, and she always tells me, says, look, you cannot get away from the CMDB. She said, there's no escaping it. You
Nope.
have to know the CMDB. And I love that you're echoing that here. There are many courses within now learning about the CMDB. There's the longer course, and there's like some smaller courses as well. So I get folks in my DM all the time saying, hey, I want to get into ServiceNow. Just talking to a young woman today saying, hey, I want to get into ServiceNow. I have all this experience in IT. I think what I have would translate well. I'm like, okay, great. Let's look into now learning to see if you can get those skills up. And so what I'm hearing you say right now, Jacob, is that get the CMDB training, and that's going to be a foundation, and you're going to always be able to use that no matter what domain you kind of go into, right?
Yeah, really. I mean, if you're doing ITSM, I mean, you log tickets against CIs, typically,
Mm-hmm.
hopefully against application services, but you're logging them against CIs. If you're doing SPM, right, projects and application portfolio management, strategic portfolio management, a lot of that ties right back to the CMDB. Vulnerabilities and risk, you're usually putting those against CIs as well, right? It all ties back to the CMDB, which is if you ever look at the ServiceNow wheel of applications, if you know what slide I'm talking about or what
Yep.
image I'm talking about, has all the different applications and areas that they have apps for, and always right in the middle is the CMDB, sitting on the platform, right? It's always right there in the middle because it is it is a driver for almost everything you do in ServiceNow.
Yeah. I want to talk to you a little bit about soft skills. We talked about hard skills. You need to have some certain technical skill set and acumen. Oftentimes, when people don't have hard skills, they believe, like, oh, well, if I don't have the hard skills, by default, I must have the soft skills. But that's not necessarily the case. Um, you need to be able to kind of sharpen your soft skills axe some. Talk to me about, and this is not in a replacement of hard skills, but talk to me about the importance of soft skills and in what areas should people and how should they be sharpening their soft skills?
Well, you're absolutely right. With when we interview people, a lot of times I tell people when I'm interviewing with a partner that I do want to see the technical skills, but I can teach somebody the technical skills. You can teach them the soft skills, but it's a lot harder, right? That takes a lot of you have to do that yourself type work, right? There's only so much I can give you a book on crucial conversations, but you have to apply it, right? I can give
Yeah.
you a book on the art of listening and those types of things, and um, but it has to come from you. You have to really apply that, and that's really getting deep when you're talking about growing your soft skills because it takes a lot of effort on your part to understand what are those soft skills. How do I become a better listener and communicator? Um, when you're working with a client, don't listen with the intent to try to immediately respond. Just take it all in, really understand what they're saying, um, and then how to articulate back what it is you're trying to say and you're trying to, especially when you get to that architect level, you really have to be able to take very complex solutions and concepts and bring them down to a place where you can communicate with your client what you're trying to do without being in the weeds, right? You have to be able to pull it out of the weeds and have that conversation at a much higher level, and again, be able to convey some of those more complex concepts. And it takes a lot of work. And then, of course, written communication skills. You might be easy to say, "Oh, I know how to go send an email." Technically, you probably do know how to type some words and hit send, but there are trainings out there that can help with kind of good etiquette around how to build an email or even how to use nowadays the chats and stuff like that, Slack, right? Some good
Mm,
Slack etiquette, but really just focusing on your verbal skills and written skills for when you're communicating back to a client. It's very
yeah.
important.
I like what you said, and I'm going to repeat back some of the things that you said. The first part of what you said had everything to do with self awareness, right? And then you talked about the importance of listening, of communication, both listening and speaking, whether that's like verbal communication skills where I'm actually talking to someone or actually written communication skills. I'm talking to someone, colleague on Slack. I'm talking to a customer. I'm sending emails, being able to communicate in a very strategic way and thoughtful way, not just strategic, but thoughtful. And then I'm also going to harken back to something you said earlier, which I thought was so important. And you said this to me a while ago when we first met in our very first conversation, and I wrote it down. And you said to me then, and you said it during our time today, was don't be afraid to lead. When you see an opportunity, go ahead and take it up. Don't wait for someone to ask you to lead. If you have more to say about that, I would love to hear it because when you talk about it, it's so profound. It always hits home when I hear you talk about it.
There's a lot behind that, but showing initiative. I mean, I've had people who always want to ask how do I get ahead? How do I move up? I know I told you one of my stories of my early days with that, and most of it just comes with taking the initiative. Right? There's a few things that you can always do and do very well that are going to set you up for success, and really some of it is as simple as showing up on time, right, to meetings and things like that, responding to an email in a timely manner, doing some of those things that seem mundane, but they're so important. Because as I tell people all the time, when we walk away from a client, the client doesn't always remember how well the tool was implemented. They don't see your code. They don't know how good code you wrote. It might have been the best code in the world, but they do remember how they felt and how they felt about you. And you have the ability to kind of make that impression. And sometimes it's just as simple as taking that initiative. Customers talking about what they want to do, you saying, "Well, hey, I hear you're wanting to do that, but let's talk about, this other thing, or let me help make sure I'm leading you down the right path, right? To show them that you're really paying attention to what they're trying to solve for, not just the requirement you need for right now, right? But even outside of that, there's other places where you can definitely step up and take opportunities to be a leader, right? When you hear somebody asking for volunteers to do stuff, even if it's not something that you feel necessarily comfortable doing, like even something like this, oh, I don't like public speaking. Maybe step outside your comfort zone a little bit, and don't be afraid to do that. And if you think, oh, I'm not good at public speaking, well, not doing it's not going to make you any better at it, right? You gotta spend some time in it. It's kind of like anything you want to really learn how to master, you've got to really spend some time in it and master it. So
Okay, okay. I'm taking notes. What I heard you say was don't be afraid of doing the mundane well. I heard you
yeah,
say don't be afraid of stepping into leadership. And then I also heard you say is don't be afraid to step outside of your comfort zone. So if there is something that maybe you're not good at,
yeah.
maybe that's an indication that maybe you should start doing it and stepping into it, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's really easy to start taking the lead. If you start finding out, you start doing some coding and you find out, man, I'm really good at, doing certain things in ServiceNow. Like, for people who do glide date time, a lot of people hate doing it. Some people are really good at doing it. It's really easy to say, when somebody raises their hand and says, hey, I need help with glide date time, for you to jump in and take the lead where you're good. But it's another thing to really stretch yourself and get
Mm.
outside your comfort zone and try to take the lead in somewhere where, again, maybe that's not been your strong suit. You're willing to step up and learn and grow and become the best version of you, right?
That was good. That was good. So before we get out of here, because I know that you've been at GlideFast for a little bit of time, I want to ask you before we get out of here, tell me about how you got to GlideFast and what do you like about the place?
I've been here for 4 years, just over 4 years. How I got here was actually through Lombardo. He and I met at Knowledge years ago as he first kind of started GlideFast, and I kept up. I kept watching, kept seeing what GlideFast was doing, talking to people who worked here. Hey, what is it like? What's going on over there? Because it all just sounded um, fun and interesting, and especially if you get around Lombardo, he's very much a person that just attracts people. Man, his personality is so fantastic, and he's just you want to be around people like Lombardo. Um, but then the time came where I was like, I think I'm ready to take the leap. I'm ready to jump in. Right, I'm ready to step outside my comfort zone, because honestly, in my previous company, I was kind of comfortable. I could have probably stayed, but I just decided it was really time for me to step into something new. And I was a little bit scared of the whole work from home. I'd never worked from home before, and it was all a little bit different and new for me. But I'm really glad I took the leap. What I love is our culture and our people. I'm sure people have seen me post on LinkedIn. I just feel almost every day I'm so honored to work with the people I work with. I mean, to name the people you talked about on the ITAM thing, Sandeep and Keezer and Lawrence and so many other people that I work with here on a daily basis, that just it's such a privilege to work with them, to see that they have the same care for their customer, the same care for this company, and the same care that we have for each other. The Ubuntu spirit that we always show to each other, and of course that LFG spirit that is just deep here. So it's a lot about the people that I work with. I absolutely love working with the people here.
Yeah, and we have Glide Fest coming up next month, which, is going to be my first Glide Fest, which I cannot wait. But listen, I have to ask you this question. What is your favorite Prince song?
Oh, my favorite Prince song. Oh man, that's a tough one. It's usually I would say whatever one is playing right now, but I think maybe my favorite of all time is probably going to be, um, man. Wait, you put me on the
Take your
spot.
time. Take your time.
What's there going through me? Is it 17 days? Is it? I
Hmm.
love when he did "Nothing Compares to You." That it should have never been recorded by anybody else, but I know he would disagree with me. But his was so perfect. I loved it. Man, yeah, I think it's probably 17 days. I love that song. I could
Yeah.
listen to it over and over again. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's one of the things that you and I connect on. We are both Prince fans. I mean, Benker even has an altar. But listen, I appreciate you so much for joining me in this stream. We could talk about Prince on another stream or
We
another
may
time.
have a whole other session just to play Prince music, talk about Prince and the influence that he had on my life and other people's lives.
Absolutely. We got to do that. We got to do that. Listen, Jacob, thank you so much for your time, and I will see you in the whirlwind. Take good care. Bye.
All right. Thanks. Bye, everybody.
Didn't I tell you he was going to blow your wig off? Didn't I tell you? Listen, if you didn't take notes, it's all good because this stream is going to be available for the replay value, right? So take notes, slow things down. If you have questions, write them down and think through them. I think that a lot of times we come into the ServiceNow ecosystem. I say we because I say we, talking about the new school. I'm part of the new school of folks who are coming into this ecosystem right about now. And we're looking for help, we're looking for advice, and we're looking to talk to someone. A lot of times those answers that we're seeking, they're pretty much publicly available. We just have to take the time to listen, to really think them through and think about how they apply to our own personal journey. I hope you have found this useful. I know I sure had a lot of fun being here with you. But until next time, y'all, stay curious. Bye.